Whoa. Woo. Hello. And welcome to the start of a new week. Well, Tuesday. Still the beginning of the week. It's not quite the middle. And a new Walkie Talkie as I battle the elements to bring you this. I was going to do this one yesterday, but I went and had to go and pick my car up instead. It's now roadworthy. It still has a electrical fault, but they've basically stripped the electric system down in that and rebuilt it, and it's still doing it, so they've no idea what it is. It's a very old car though. It's 21 years old. If I was working full time, I would have got a new car by now, but I've had that one since brand new. It rolled off the production line and straight into my hands, so I know the car inside out. Everything that's been done on it, it's been looked after. I mean, in 21 years I've done 34,000 miles on the clock, so it's not got a lot of mileage on it. Anyway, it's walkie-talkie time, not chat about car time. So today, what I had planned to talk about, well, I struggled to hold on to the umbrella in the wind here, is the demise of video game shops. Because it sort of goes hand in hand with the demise of physical media, which is a topic I've already touched upon. But this is the actual demise of the actual stores themselves, and how I do believe that that's quite sad. I don't know how the hell I've got water on the camera, considering it's under the umbrella. But yeah, I'll try and wipe it off the lens when I get to the end. I can't really do it here because my hands are full. I've got one hand holding the bloody camera and the other hand holding an umbrella, which is not clever. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, with the end of physical media, should be riding a bike down here. Never mind. Yeah, with the end of physical media, we've seen the obvious, well, not the end of physical media, it's not quite gone yet, but there's certain major downturn in it. We've seen outlets no longer stocking physical media of games, and some of those outlets disappearing completely, which is very sad. I've said before, there is nowhere close to me now that sells video games, and that's a really sad thing, to be honest. But with this push for digital, essentially renting of games now, you know, paying full price for a game doesn't give you ownership of the product to play when and wherever you want. You're just renting now. So, yeah, wonderful. So, as we get to the end of this lane, and I walk on this lane, we'll prep that and push it to get into the park. It should be interesting trying to hold on to this umbrella and get around the park at the same time. But we'll do our best. We'll do our best. So, I'm going to knock the camera up here and see you in the park. Oh, this is a pain in the arse trying to do. You have to forgive this. It's a bloody plastic bag. The rain just keeps stopping and starting, and it's a real menace trying to hold the umbrella, take the camera out of its bag, turn the camera on, then turn on the microphone, wait for it to bloody connect. It's a knob. Weather's been a knob. Either rain or don't. Stop this stop-start crap. Anyway, so, as I was saying, the subject is game shops disappearing, and also other outlets that used to sell physical media, used to sell games, them too disappearing. Back in the 80s, when computer games, as they primarily were in the UK, as I've said in previous videos, we did have games consoles, we did have the VCS 2600 and all that stuff, the NES, the Master System, we had all that. But chiefly, god damn this, now I've got wind to contend with. Oh, this is a dumpster fire. This is a dumpster fire. Right, we're still alive. Won't be going around that bit again. It seems to be a wind tunnel. What a lovely day, eh? So, as I was saying before I got hit by a bleeding tornado, you know, just as a side note, you fuckers had better watch this, doing this in this weather. So anyway, I'm just kidding. Yeah, back in the 80s, nearly everywhere, I'm not even joking here, sold computer games. We have a chain of stores over here called Boots, and it was Boots the Chemist, was its full title. It was basically a pharmacy that had that sold extra stuff in it. He even sold televisions, he sold some electrical goods in there. It was weird. They kind of branched out in that period, and they actually sold computer games. I bought quite a few games for the computer games from Boots. We had Woolworths. They sold loads of games in there. across all the different formats. Had oh god, I mean, I honestly, like, newsagents. We have a newsagent over here called WH Smith, and they sold computer games. Bought a load of games from there. I mean, actually, they sold computer games up until relatively recent times, should I say. Even the local petrol station in America, you'd call it a gas station. Even they sold computer games. They used to sell some like budget games, and some of them were actually, they were hard to get hold of. I got a few from there. I remember getting the Evil Dead game. It was either from there, or was it the local mum and pop video rental store. It might have been that, actually. But yeah, there was a small video rental store just around the corner from where I lived that sold computer games. I think I got Evil Dead from there, and from the, what did I get from the petrol station? It was another one anyway that wasn't particularly common. But yeah, like, you never had a problem finding a place to buy video games from. The Chase HQ game that there's a video up on my channel for, I bought that from Boots. And when I played it and it saw how crap it was, I actually tried to take it back there and said, oh, this don't work. And yeah, they were only willing to swap it for the same game. I wanted to get a different game because it was crap. So they wouldn't swap it. It wouldn't surprise me if they'd not had quite a few people trying to take it back, because it was absolutely terrible. So yeah, I think I made a mistake here coming into the open area bit. I have to lift my camera up a bit, I think, because I can feel the rain blowing in on my face even. So I apologise if you get water droplets on the camera lens. There's nothing I can do about it, I'm afraid. But yeah, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible, like Chase HQ. But initially, I think one of the other things as well that they were very wary of back then was people copying games and then taking the game back and swapping it for another, because that was relatively easy to do with the cassette-based games back then, particularly if you owned a Spectrum. With a Spectrum, you could copy games just using hi-fi twin cassettes that were very commonplace on hi-fis in the 80s. You could do that. It was very easy to do. The C64 was a little bit more tricky, because the C64 used a proprietary tape deck, and whereas the Spectrum just used your standard portable cassette player. It wasn't a proprietary one. But with the Commodore one, it was proprietary, so you had the issue there of the actual hardware sensitivity. I covered it in one of my other videos. I even had some C64 games that I'd purchased that wouldn't work because the sensitivity of the tape deck, the tape heads. So yeah, you had to be mindful of that. with the C64, but you could buy all of this, of course, what I'm about to tell you is allegedly. You could buy a cartridge, which was a freeze frame cartridge, where you plugged that into the cartridge port of the C64, and it had a little button on it. And what you did was you loaded the game, you pressed the button, and the button dumped the game into the memory on the cartridge. And then you'd put a blank cassette in, and then you'd hit play and record on the blank cassette in the C2N tape deck unit, and then that would then dump the game that was in the memory on the cartridge onto cassette. What it also did was it compressed the data, so the games would actually load a lot quicker as well. So I was told, you know, so I was reliably informed. So yeah, it was relatively easy to do. The only things that you couldn't do with cartridges, I mean, there were even ways to do it with the floppy disks. I used the same principle, and even when the Commodore Amiga come out, it was, I don't know by then if it was easier or not, but it was certainly possible, because I remember at the time, one of the things that video game publishers didn't like about the Amiga was the fact that piracy was a thing on the machine, you know? People were copying games. It wasn't that much of a challenge to do that. Not as much of a challenge as it would be if the games were based on cartridges. So they'd come out with all manner of copy protection systems. Some worked well, some were robust, and some were a complete waste of time. But yeah, going back, the physical media outlets, they started to dry up. They started to disappear. Hello, doggo. And that really started. It started in the 90s. It was already happening pre-internet. For some cases, stores like Boots and other places like that, gas stations and what have you, they stopped selling games because they were too expensive. You know, it was expensive for them to buy the games, and it was expensive for them to sell them. They couldn't compete with the box shifting stores like over here, like HMV, Game, Electronics Boutique over here, before that went, Game Station before Game purchased them, which we'll get on to about that fiasco, because Game, well, they really didn't have the money to buy Game Station. They did it to take away competition, and shortly thereafter Game got into serious financial difficulties. But that's a subject for another video. But yeah, and one by one these places have gone, and there was a couple of really good video game stores that were close to me up until about 5 or 6 years ago. One of them was, well, they were an independent outlet with designs on expanding and becoming a nationwide chain. And they did have a few outlets in the north of England. One of those was near to where I lived. I used to go there all the time. But outlet was called Granger Games, but they were decent enough, but they weren't the best. In fact, I had quite a, well, it's humorous looking back on it. At the time it was infuriating. When the PS4 Pro come out, I wanted to trade some old games and my PS4 to get the PS4 Pro. And I phoned them up and they said, oh yeah, bring it all in, we'll trade it. So, in fairness, there was quite a bit of stuff. There's quite a bit of stuff to trade. So I boxed everything up and they, took it in there. Now, apparently their store closed at, I want to say 5 o'clock, but I think it might have been 6 o'clock. It doesn't matter. I got there and there was about 40 minutes of opening time left of the store. And I'd lugged everything there, and they would say there was quite a lot of stuff. I ended up having to get a shopping cart to put the stuff in to go and trade. But I mean, it was boxes. It wasn't individual items. It was, big boxes, console boxes, and what have you, and game boxes for games that I didn't want anymore. I have limited space, so there was some old games that I was never going to play again. I'd played, completed, or played and didn't like them. I'm going to head back this way, I think. I get in there and they look at me and they go, we can't do that. I said, excuse me. I just phoned up. He said, you would? He said, oh yeah, we'll take the trade in, but we shut in 40 minutes. So I was like, and? Okay. You got 40 minutes. I said, it's not that much stuff. I said, it's just boxes. They wouldn't do it. So when I say local, about 1.5 miles from where I lived. I suppose, depending on where you live, that is local. So I just was like, are you kidding me? I've come all this way and you're telling me that you're not going to do it? And they were like, no. I said, well, this is a sale. I said, I'm about to give you a sale, plus the stuff you get on trading here, you sell for a huge markup. Like, you give me very small amounts of money in comparison to what you'll sell it for, because they'll either sell it secondhand in store or they'll sell it online. In any event, they make quite a substantial they make quite a substantial profit, and they won't do it. So I went, right, okay. I said, I think that's ridiculous. And I sort of under my breath, as I was putting the stuff back that I'd taken out, bagging it back up and putting it in the trolley, I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake, because I realised I'd have to come back the next day. And I come back the next day, first thing in the morning, and they did it. It took them 15 minutes to do it. 15 minutes. So they could have easily done it, including the 10 minutes they stood there arguing the toss with me. They could have easily have done it. And the manager of the store was obviously on a bit of a power trip. Goes, oh yeah, this really did make me laugh at the time. In fact, I did tweet about it. I thought it was hilarious. The manager of the store goes, "Oh, if you kick off like that again, you'll be barred." I was like, "Excuse me, what? I'll be barred for what exactly?" And the manager goes, "For swearing at the staff." I said, "I didn't swear at anybody." I said, "I swore under my breath because I was having to load everything back into the trolley." I said, "I didn't swear at anyone." And I said to them, I said, "That isn't kicking off." I said, "Making a well-rationed argument isn't kicking off." And I did the thing that I hate, but like you always do in the heat of the moment, I just came out with it. And also said, the busiest store around here, I said, I choose to support this place and I buy all my games and hardware from here. I said, and I have done for the past 2 years. I said, when I come in here, I said, it's never massively busy. I said, and I'm not saying I'm your biggest customer, far from it. I said, but I must be up there. Now at that time, I could have gone to Game in a big out of town shopping mall. Game was the big national, that was the big national chain of video game stores. That's our equivalent of GameStop over here. In fact, you'd be forgiven in thinking that Game and GameStop were owned by the same people, because they pretty much have the identical business practices and philosophies. I don't know who copies who. Well, they did. I mean, Game's now completely evaporated, pretty much. Good luck finding a physical media outlet. Game was bought by a guy who owns a sporting goods and clothes store. And I think now if you want to find a physical game store, they're actually located inside one of these outlets. Not that you'd know unless you went on the internet. So, that's not going to be very long before that they disappear completely. I mean, in the out of town place, at one point they had 3 stores in the one shopping mall. 3. They actually had 2, one on the lower level and one almost directly opposite it on the upper level, and then one located further down inside of a Selfridges store. Bizarrely enough, I don't get that either, but yeah. And now there's none in there. There was a giant HMV in the same place, then that went to a much smaller premises, and now that's gone completely. So I don't actually have any reason to go to this place now, because there's nothing in there that I'm interested in. It's all clothes shops and, like these places that just have multiples of the same kind of stores, none of which I'm remotely interested in, to be honest. I couldn't care less about the place. But yeah. So I was like, right, fine. I said, you argued with me for 10 minutes. I said, it took you 15 minutes. I said, but my calculations, that's 25 minutes. And we had 40 minutes before you were going to shut. So the manager came up with some flannel about the tills shutting off. So I just thought, that's absolute nonsense. There's not a single store that would turn a customer away. You don't do that. So anyway, I thought I'd tweet at Granger Games. Now, I didn't name the store and I didn't name names because my objective isn't to get anyone fired. I just wanted clarification if that was the policy. Because if it is, all right, fair enough. You know, I'm somebody, I like to know. I like to have confirmation that, you know, that that's correct. Well, they were very quick in tweeting me back saying, no, our stores stay open so long as there are people being served or people trying to engage in any kind of transaction. The store doesn't close. The tills don't shut off. They shut off when basically whoever's got the shop is running the shop that day, shuts them off, which is logical. That makes sense. Because say I was there buying 2 games consoles and 30 games for each console, that is a giant sale for them. Are they seriously expecting me to believe that they're just going to go, nah, no, we don't want that. We don't want the big sale. We don't want the thousands and thousands of pounds of revenue off one transaction. That's not obviously what I was doing, but the point remains that according to the store manager who was threatening to bar me for wanting to spend money in there, yeah, I was like, okay. And then they tweeted at me, what was the store? You know, what was the branch of the store? And I was like, oh shit. Now I could have really, you know, if I was a complete bastard, I could have ruined somebody's day by telling them. But to be honest with you, I don't know, maybe I'm too soft, but I just thought, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting somebody fired, because I knew that's what would happen. Those type of places, you know, they hire and fire people. They have such a huge turnover of staff. And that the manager that had been in there, weirdly enough, I'd got on with quite a lot and had a lot of fun conversations with them. They might have been just having a really bad day. They might have had things going on in the personal life. I try to be mindful of that, you know. I think that was the thing that caught me a bit by surprise as well, is that because I've been a regular customer and because I had such a good rapport, I couldn't understand where the attitude was coming from. I mean, I wasn't asking them to do anything above and beyond, just serving me. So I was like, that's not important. I said, I just wanted clarification for my own personal interest. I'm not looking to get anybody in trouble, because at the end of the day, I knew that with that information, if a situation ever arose similar to that in the future, I had that evidence to say, well, that's not true, because god damn wind, because you know, the people from your head office where the social media account was based, you know, they confirmed, should I dare it, it'd be a laugh if I go over, wouldn't it? It can't be complete without me attempting the path of, every time I go on it, a slip or trip on a twig or something. In this weather, it'd be rude not to. But anyway, yeah, I carried on shopping there. To be, you know, and I say afterwards, we were okay. So I could only assume that I was right in my thoughts that maybe they were just having a bad day. Maybe they just didn't want to deal with that day. It's still not right. It doesn't make it right. But, you know, I've worked in retail when I was a lot younger. I worked in retail, and you know, if you've had a number of really crappy customers in there, It ain't nice. It isn't nice. That's not, you know, again, it's not an excuse, doesn't excuse them being crappy to me. When, you know, when all I was doing was trying to, you know, I mean, there was stuff in there. There was a lot of stuff in there, but it was like big boxes of games. It takes them seconds to check a game. You know, they pop the disc off the spindle and they have a look to make sure there's no scratches or gouges on it that might make the game unplayable. In my case, there isn't, because I look after my stuff. You know, I don't use DVD, Blu-ray ROMs or anything like that as coasters. They're either in the box or in the console. I've said that before. So, well, I mean, they don't know that, but you know, it doesn't take long. It's seconds per game. You know, and all they do is they check it and then they scan the barcode. Next, check it, scan barcode. Next. What was the big thing was the console, which they would have had to take out and test. Now, just to rewind a little bit, I offered to unbox it for them and plug everything in, so all they had to do was plug it into the TV and turn it on and pop a game in. That would have taken about 5 minutes tops. And there was 2 of them behind the counter and there was no one else in the store. So one could have been, you know, turning the console on, one checking the games, and I could have helped out. You know, I wouldn't have stood there, you know, with my arms folded. I was willing to help, you know, just to get the transaction done. But anyway, yeah, as I say, and then I think about a year later, that store was gone. I went down there one day, and I wasn't actually going to get anything that day, but I just glanced over and it was all shut. And it was like a Friday, about midday on a Friday. And it was all closed up. And I was like, well, that's that gone. And sort of, that was a bit of a detour, I know, but I like to throw a story in now and then on these walks. So yeah, that was it. All done. They were gone. The supermarkets over here, they used to sell physical media. They stopped doing that altogether for both games and films. That was another one gone. You used to get some really good deals on launch day at supermarkets because they were box shifters. You would quite often get a brand new game that would be sort of £5 or £6 cheaper. I think it stopped raining. Let me just check. Has it? Yeah. Alright. Bear with me while I pop this umbrella down. It stopped raining, but it's still windy. There we go. Yeah, it sort of waits till right at the end of the video. Let's go back this way and then I think we're done. I've got to go to the shop and then I've got to take my car out for a run. If it'll start. That's the problem with it. Some days it starts and other days it doesn't, and it's not the starter. So, yeah, I'll figure that one out. So yeah, bit by bit, these outlets have just sort of all disappeared now. The only one that you might have a chance of getting a game, and that's really a lottery, is Argos. They used to be They used to be a relatively independent store. Now they've become part of a supermarket chain, Sainsbury's, and Sainsbury's have ruined Argos. Argos used to be like a combined catalogue and well, you could just walk in and buy something. They had these little computers. They used to, back in the day, they would put a catalogue out. You pick up, it was like a giant catalogue, and they would have little numbers in there. And you could look at that and see if they had it in stock. You could do it online and see if they had them in stock, and you could reserve it, go in and pick it up. It was really good. You know, or you could just pop in off the high street, go in, and they came out with these little digital terminals that you could have a look, and you could check them out, check out what they had on these little terminals, and yeah, see if they had it in stock, and you could buy it. It was pretty good. They were pretty good stores, and unfortunately, Sainsbury's bought them, shut down the majority of the standalone stores, shoved them into the corner of their supermarkets, and now they don't carry anywhere near the stock. Now it's pretty much online. You have to order it, wait for it to come in online, and that's it. It's crap. The actual stores themselves, they never have stock of what you want. They used to all the time. So yeah, unless you're lucky and it's launch day, you've not got any, you know, the one local to me, it's inside a small Sainsbury's, which makes it even worse. It's literally in the corner. It's like an afterthought. So it's not worth it. It's not worth going in there at all. So yeah, that's it pretty much. It's Amazon. And I've noticed of late, Amazon are really flaky now on physical media. I wanted to get the Jaws 50th anniversary 4K Blu-ray. Can't get it. Can't get it. Can't get it on Amazon. It's literally like, that's become, if you don't buy it, if you don't order something before it comes out, or you don't get it in the sort of launch window, like a few weeks in and around the launch window, that's it, you're not getting it. So Amazon used to be almost guaranteed to get stuff on there. It was great. If you couldn't get it on the high street, you get it on Amazon. That's how I used to operate. High street first. Amazon was my backup. Now Amazon became primary. Now they're flaking out. You know, I don't want to stream films. I want them on disc. I want them on disc. Thank you very much. Yeah. But no. And you can't. Now that's becoming more and more difficult. It's just a nightmare. This whole online streaming digital stuff is for the birds. It's crap. Because once they disappear, that's it, and they will. You know, you're already seeing the difficulty companies have when it comes to maintaining these streaming services. It'll go. It'll all be gone, and then you won't be able to watch it. You know, which is great, isn't it? So, well, anyway, I think I'm pretty much done, to be honest. This is what they're going to do. Just trying to make my mind up. Yeah, I better shark off and get something for my dinner later tonight. Yeah, that's pretty much it really. It's sad. I think back about just going out as a kid, just wandering around, seeing, what games different places had to buy, had to get. You could unearth some real gems, and now that's gone. It's just the sort of third-rate, flaky, crappy, online-only form of distribution, where you got nothing to show for it, and you can only access it when they let you. Oh, but they want you to pay. Yeah, they want you to pay, but it's rubbish. Let's be honest. It's singularly the biggest mistake these companies have made, because look how they're struggling. There's a reason for it. It's not the only reason, but it plays into it. It's part of the reason. So anyway, as it stopped raining and everybody rushes out to do their walking and God knows what else, I'll call it there and catch you in the next one.